I just finished writing my essays for medical school, and while I wait to hopefully get some interviews, I just wanted to share some thoughts.
This journey is hard, right? We all know this. Obviously, you gotta get good grades, a good MCAT score, volunteer in your community, maybe do some research and wow the admissions committees in whatever other ways you can. But these last couple months, I've realized that no matter how amazing your accomplishments are, there's one thing that is more important than all of it.
And that is your skill in telling your story.
You know that feeling when you stop and think about all the things you've done in your life and it just feels like nothing? But then when you go talk to a friend about it, they list all the valuable things you've done and how awesome they actually are. I don't know, it feels like sometimes our brains just go into autopilot sometimes and we get so consumed by the work that we do that we don't realize how it's impacting us and our own personal development. When I first sat down to write my applications, this was me. It felt like while I did realize that I had accomplishments, I didn't know how to convey the impact of these activities without just sounding corny. Like saying stuff like, this experience changed my life and further solidified my desire to becoming a physician, or ultimately the multifaceted impact of this experience inspired me to become a physician. While true in some shape or form,
Every time I wrote something like that, I would just cringe and procrastinate because I just didn't want to deal with that kind of writing.
but it's interesting. Here I am a couple months later, completely done with essays, and I've got to say that writing these essays has taught me so much about myself. Like, as solid as I was in my decision to becoming a physician, writing these essays, some of which are really introspective prompts, I feel like I've been able to further define my why for medicine. On top of that, racking my brain to think of my life experiences that fit some of these questions, I've realized how some experiences that I didn't really take that seriously actually impacted me more than the stuff on my resume.
These essays now read to me like short stories about my life, and there's something special about putting them down in writing.
It makes me wish that I was more intentional in reflecting on my experiences, not just doing it for the essays, but rather for myself. This way I'd really understand the experiences I involve myself in and reflect deeper into how those experiences impact me and help me craft my story.
And I realized that crafting your story is a skill. It requires practice just like anything else in your life.
But the results of this seemingly simple skill can help you in so many different facets of your life, medical school applications just being one of them. But how do you develop this skill? What techniques can you use?
I'm by no means a professional, but as someone who's always been fascinated by stories and trying to develop my own ability to tell them, I can share some tips.
I think the main tip I wish I implemented earlier in my life is daily journaling. But I don't know, it always felt cheesy to me. Like it reminded me of middle schoolers writing about their little squabbles with other kids. But now that I think about it, it's writing like this that we wish we could have access to now. Like, I would find it so fascinating what my thoughts were back in middle school, like 10 years ago, and what the most pressing concern I had back then was.
Inevitably, our days are limited, so why not create something that enables us to relive those days?
In terms of medical school applications, daily journaling would have helped me more than I could ever imagine. Like all the patient encounters, interactions with my peers, and most importantly, my thoughts in the moment would have all already been in text form for me to pull from. And rather than me having to rack my brain to try and figure out how I might have thought about something, I could just refer back to my journal to relive those moments.
On top of this, by daily journaling, you're putting in the reps. Every day that you sit down and write your story, you're becoming incrementally better at it.
Like I said, I'm by no means a pro, but I can give one more tip. When you tell your story, as important as the event itself is, probably more important is capturing your sentiment during that moment. How did you feel? What did you do? How did you feel about what you did? Throughout undergrad, I felt myself kind of jumping from thing to thing, not really taking time to think about my own thoughts, just doing whatever the next thing was that I thought would be worthwhile. I've also thought of myself as someone who is more logical towards situations, not really caring too much about my own thoughts and feelings and just focusing on getting the task done. As productive as I thought I was, it was like I was never really thinking about what the fruits of my labor were. Like I just kept laboring.
I've recently become more intentional about thinking about my own thoughts, and writing has definitely helped with that.
So yeah, Lots of practice and deep reflection on yourself is what's going to make you a better storyteller, whether it be for medical school applications or life in general. Humans are natural storytellers, and stories are just as old as humanity itself. So tell your story. Why are you doing what you're doing? Do you enjoy it? Is there something else in life that you want? Just remember, regardless of your circumstances, your story is unique.
And no matter what life decides to throw at you, at the end of the day, you're the one with the pen.